Welcome to the STEM Pathways with Rohan Sharma podcast, where we dive into the exciting world of science, technology, engineering, and math. In each episode, we share exciting stories, groundbreaking research, and inspiring interviews with experts and enthusiasts who are pushing the boundaries of innovation. Whether you're a student, a professional, or just curious about how the world works, join us as we explore the endless possibilities of STEM. Let's get started. Today I'll be interviewing Anirudh Sriram, who holds a bachelor's from IIT Madras and a master's from Stanford in electrical engineering. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good, and thanks for coming on the podcast. So to get started, I wanted to ask what made you choose your major of electrical engineering for your bachelor's?
If I'm being very honest, I didn't have a lot of choice. So in India, how the system works is that you write this entrance exam, which is a common exam that you write to get into IITs, and you kind of have a ranking system. So you're already given a rank, and you give your top choices: computer science, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and you just give that list of your preference, and the one with a better rank gets a higher preference for their order, so you get allotted based on that. And for my rank, I ended up with electrical engineering. So I could say it happened because of my rank more than my own choice, but it was indeed my choice to pursue a master's in it. Like apart, like from bachelor's to like coming to Stanford for my master's, it was my personal choice to continue with it. But yeah, that's the short answer for why did I do a bachelor's in electrical engineering.
Yeah. So what was your experience like while at Madras?
Uh, so you could call I did my bachelor's from 2018 to 2022. So we were the so-called COVID batch among the this thing. So we were hard hit by COVID in the sense we lost close to 4 to 5 semesters for it. Like entire sophomore year almost, and my like junior year and a part of my senior year were all at home. So it's not like what would I say? It's a very different experience than what an ideal someone who spent 4 years at like IIT Madras would have had. We are very different in that aspect. But yeah, it was very, I mean, different than I expected because I went in thinking it'll be super competitive. Everybody, I don't know, I thought it'd be like a very corporate cutthroat experience. I don't know why I thought that, but that's my expectation going in because getting into that university in itself was a very hard fought process, you could say. It was not very easy given. So I thought it'll continue, but it was very different. Like people had very different aspirations. I saw people who wanted to become singers. I saw people who wanted to just travel around the world despite getting into IIT. So like that kind of gave me a very like at least proved me wrong that my opinion about the college, the university was very different to what it is today. And entrepreneurship was something that boomed for me there. Like I did not go into IIT Madras thinking I'd be an entrepreneur someday, let alone like few years down the line. So yeah, I would say like my experiences there shaped me to like be where I am today.
And I guess academically though, was it very challenging, you think, compared to most universities, especially compared to places in the US?
It's tricky to say because I've had a few friends in Stanford undergrad, like friends. And the difference is that here undergrads do a lot of more courses. Like I think they do like 6, 7, 8 courses a quarter, correct? And the two differences I would definitely like say is that we do over a semester and not a quarter, and we do at max 5 to 6 courses. So we had a longer duration and lesser number of courses. But at Stanford, I saw people doing for a shorter duration, more number of courses. So it just makes, I personally feel like you probably don't have time to sit and learn more. You're just like assignment one done, assignment two next, assignment two done, assignment three next. It keeps running. You have no time to like relax or anything. But with a semester format, you get that time. Like you can take 2 weeks to settle in, then you can pick up, you'll have a midterm, you can do that midterms, then you'll have again another like 4 to 5 weeks for your finals, and you have time in between, and you can actually make up for it. Like if you miss midterm, you don't do very well. You have the option to make up for it by doubling down on the finals. But with the quarter system, with everything jam packed into 9 to 10 weeks, right, it becomes slightly more difficult. So I would say it's different in that aspect. But in terms of grading, I personally feel, again, it's my personal opinion, is that grading in India is significantly more stricter in the sense you will not get your A plus and your A that easily compared to how many people get an A or A plus. And I also think a reason for that could be that the courses I do probably had a max strength of 75 to 80 people or 150 at best. That's the largest I can think of a class I took in my undergrad degree. At Stanford, I did CS224N, which is the natural language processing class. If I'm not wrong, that class had a strength of close to 1,000 people. So that is a difference I feel like in terms of grading, because if you have 1,000 people, I think a top 100 of you will get some A grades. Could be A minus, A plus, A, depending on how you perform. But if you're in top 100, I think that's comparatively easier than being in the top 10% of a 75 class like cohort, right? If you're in top seven there, 100 versus seven, I'd always take the 100. So I feel like getting an A plus is slightly more difficult in India. But I also think the exams are very different. Like in India, it's very, very mathematical, I would say. Like it's like not very project oriented to an extent I would have liked. It's not like I'm complaining or anything, but that's how we've been taught. That's the entire curriculum, and it gives us a bunch of advantages, I would say, compared to my peers here at Stanford. Like when I came here, I had a lot of advantages because of I was brought up in that kind of a system where I had to do a lot more, I would say, a very different kinds of problems for my exams. But here people do, I would say, a little bit more practical work. Like you do projects. Like every course has at least a project, if not multiple submissions. You have some things like in masters, you also have an option to do thesis. You have an option to actually present your work. You have an option to publish your work. You have options to take research for credits, which I think is slightly different between the two like kinds of systems that I was exposed to. But again, I'm not sure if in IIT Madras, if you did a master's, you would not have access to these. That I'm not privy to, but I'm just taking my shot here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess from the high schooler's perspective, I know in the US, like high schoolers, I guess they spend a lot more time on extracurriculars and then less on academics.
Mhm.
Um, I guess from what you said, it sounds a little bit like that in college too. Do you think it's shifting in India to be a little more like here, or is it kind of staying the same?
That's a great question. So, a little bit of my background in the sense I aspire like I used to play a sport called cricket. I'm not sure if you watch cricket, but so I aspired to be a professional cricketer growing up. So I used to play for my state South Zone, and till 16 years old, my entire hopes was to be a cricketer. And as you know, there are a billion people playing cricket in India, and only 15 of them get to play for the country. It's a very difficult, or probably very difficult chance to make it there. And I became like I was probably told by my parents and counselors that probably you'll have to consider other alternatives. So only in my could say junior and senior year of my high school is all I studied. I can say that very proudly that you can pick up any point, but the difference is it is not a like I'm not sure of the exact high school grading system that works in the United States. I don't know if like all 4 years of your high school are counted for your final GPA or stuff like that. I'm not sure, but for us it is all the exam that counts. Like you have one final exam in my senior year, and that is all I have to ace to probably get into the college of my choice. And I was not like thinking of coming to the United States, so I didn't give SATs or anything. So I was not worried about extracurriculars there. And in terms of extracurriculars in India itself, right, I was in IIT Madras. I was the captain of the IIT Madras cricket team. I was part of the IIT Madras debate contingent. So I was also part of IIT Madras Analytics Club, which does hackathons. I was part of IIT Madras NLP Club. So there are a lot of options. I was not a part of the E cell, which is the entrepreneurship cell of IIT Madras, which is now very, very, very huge, I'm told by my juniors back home. And there is also a very, not wrong, it's called Avishkar. It's an Hyperloop cell of IIT Madras. They are building Hyperloops. So I don't know if you'll call it academic there yet, but it's for me, from my perspective, it's an extracurricular where students outside of their like college curriculum come and build this hyperloop, compete in Elon's, like they have this SpaceX or whatever competition every year, right? They bring their built hyperloop and compete, and they've got some contracts with the government of India for doing different stuff there. So it's like very much encouraged, especially entrepreneurship now is very, very much encouraged. I see a bunch of my juniors, like immediate juniors, already started a company in Bangalore. My own batch people did Y Combinator a year before me. So when I was at Stanford, they had already come to Y Combinator. I just finished Y Combinator very recently. So, like, I would say not as much as US yet, but we are coming up, you could say. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just have like looked at a bunch of people's LinkedIn. I definitely see a lot of IIT Madras people come to these schools like Stanford and whatever in the US. Um and then like you were saying, they definitely have that entrepreneurial spirit at Madras as well. Is that something that you think has changed recently or has it been like that for a while?
Uh, Difficult to say because I'm not sure if I mean, I don't have the data points to be honest to say concretely that this is how it was and it's changed. But at least in my 4 years, I've seen a lot of my friends take up entrepreneurship now. That I can say for sure. Like a lot of my seniors, there's this company called Hakimo from Stanford. Like three founders, all Stanford founders, all three of them were my seniors from IIT Madras. And I mean, I don't know it's a brag or not, but Perplexity's founder is from IIT Madras, right?
Mhm.
So we've had a few decent startups come out of IIT Madras at this point, and hopefully we expect a few more to come. But not just entrepreneurship. I hope like there is this a beautiful course on humanities in IIT Madras, which is even more harder to get in actually, even more harder than engineering to get in, where people are studying international policy, people are studying to like do very ambitious stuff, and I hope that is also encouraged and like more people come out of that. I've seen like 5 6 people from IT Madras now in Stanford GSP doing MBA. So I think a lot of people do very different stuff and somehow get into Stanford from IT Madras, you could say.
Yeah. So, when along your journey in IIT Madras did you decide you want to come to Stanford and do a master's?
Can you repeat that?
When did you decide that you wanted to come to Stanford and do a master's?
Tricky question. So I could say junior year. So junior year is when I was interning at Microsoft, and I really liked the internship. I got a pre-placement offer as well. So the point I had to decide was I could say like end of summer in my junior or end of summer in sophomore year, like going into my junior year. I had to decide if I actually wanted to pursue a master's or if I have to think for a job like after my bachelor's. And in order to do either of them, I had to prepare myself differently, like kind of build up my resume differently, if I'm being very honest. So I had to do different things, and I spoke with like a bunch of my mentors. I spoke with a bunch of like people I really respect. And good thing is my father happened to be a recruiter of 20 years. So he's been in the industry. He's a very seasoned this thing, and he is the one who is like asking me. I mean, good thing is they never force me. So what me and my sister, so I have a twin sister. So what me and my sister joke is that if I don't do, she'll do that, and if she doesn't do something, I'll do that. So my parents will get at least one child to get to do what they want. I mean, it's a joke, but so they never forced us to do anything. So they all he did was sat down with me and asked me a bunch of questions, which kind of made me think of whether I wanted to like take up a job immediately and or if I wanted to do a master's, or why did I want to do a master's? Why not a PhD? It's a very different direction to go towards. And yeah, so after all that discourse with a lot of people, I kind of narrowed down like, nah, I don't want to work immediately. Let me go do my master's. And then started another process altogether, right? You have to choose which schools to apply to, who should you get your letters of recommendation from, who should you like who's going to review your SOPs and stuff like that. But yeah, I think everybody goes through that same like process to get in.
Yeah. So, while you were at Stanford, outside of academics, what made it special and what makes Stanford one of the best electrical engineering programs?
So if I'm being very honest, like I didn't go to Stanford for academics in the sense like my choice of Stanford was for the holistic experience, like the entrepreneurship and the community of like I was mind blown the day I entered and I saw the startup community there, right? Just the sheer number of companies, like I mean, it might sound ridiculous, but I've seen people who wanted to build data centers in Moon 2 years ago. And I've seen people who wanted to do agriculture in Africa, and this guy has no relation to Africa. Like, if he's from there, I can understand, but this guy is from Tennessee. So, like, I've seen people with very broad range of ambitions and working extremely hard towards it. Like, they just don't say, they walk the talk. Like, they do the work. They actually show you what needs to be done to get there. In I was very lucky to do like actually have both sides of this thing. So I worked with three startups during my time at Stanford and came out building my own startup. And I've also written three research papers when I was at Stanford. So like I was able to kind of do both, luckily I would say. But the experience was that it was not just academics. If it was, I wouldn't have managed. Like I somehow passed and I did come out with a decent grade, no doubt. But I'm saying like it gave you so much more. Like all I had to do was submit my assignments, go to class when required. But the opportunities, the labs that I could get access to, the professors, like I worked with Fifi Lees of the world. I worked with people I only looked up and read in books. Stephen Boyd, like optimization and stuff like that. Like these are people like I've met the person who wrote the compiler for LaTeX. I met Mate Zaharia. I've seen like extraordinary people, Andrew Ng, so many people I can just keep naming. But these were people who I looked up to. And at Stanford, I can literally walk the same corridors that they walk and speak with them whenever I can just walk in and speak with them. And my advisor was Chelsea Finn. I mean, academic advisor. I like, spoke with her to a less extent, you could say, but I was given access to such great people, right? She is one of the greatest research people I've read about, like read papers from. It's like having her as an advisor, it's like I would say life changing in a way, yeah.
Yeah. So, when did you decide you want to make a startup?
Okay, and so the part that I didn't probably say in detail is that because of COVID, because I stayed at home and I had all the extra time, like I didn't have to go to class, I didn't have to like do my laundry, I didn't have to do anything. Like everything was taken care for me at home. I was lucky enough to do an internship on every semester from my fourth semester. So I've already, by the time I graduated from my undergrad, I already worked at Google Research. I worked at Microsoft. I worked at Walmart Labs. I worked at a startup called Bridge I2I. So I've done like 4 or 5 internships at that point. And I came to Stanford. I again got an internship in Redmond in their co-pilot team at Microsoft. Again, did another internship with them. So I'd already tried the big techs, and but I somehow felt like it was not for me. Like it's not that I will never go back to big techs. It's a great job for anybody who wants stability. But I felt like I can do more. I want to do more. I think I wanted to challenge myself. And I felt like I'm capable of doing better, doing more, and producing a product which people would want. And that somehow pushed me towards finding what can I actually build that people would want. And that's how I'm building MagiCode now. Yeah.
So, what's your experience like been so far, and how long ago do you start it actually?
This company we started almost a year ago, like you could say December 2023 or January 2024. And yeah, it's always been rocky. So startups are rocky. So the upside was we got into YC somewhere in May or early April, if I'm not wrong. And we got funding. We got like I got to meet like I met Michael Siebel. He was my group partner. I met Gary. I met so many like Sam. So many people like Brian Chesky. I can keep naming. So like all these people, that was the heist. I would say like meeting with great people, speaking with them, picking their brains, learning more about what to do, what not to do. But the hard part is you have to do it. You have to build it. You have to get product market fit. You have to think about like next fundraising. You have to think about like your customer support. You have to think about how would you expand your team, like what should you focus on, etc. So it's not very linear, right? You do this in school. It is like you do this, you submit three assignments, you'll get certain bare minimum percentage you pass. It is kind of linear in school, but startup world is not like you can do all the correct things, but you might not succeed. You can do all the wrong things, and you might end up building the greatest startup like ever built. So I think that makes the journey even more interesting to me, and hopefully, let's see where it takes me.
So, can you give us a bit more of a description exactly what your startup aims to do?
Can you repeat?
Can you give us a description of what your startup is?
Oh yeah, okay, MagiCode. So it's that's been through iterations on itself, but today MagiCode you could assume is your AI junior front-end developer for React and Next.js apps. So this is like your junior front-end developer, which will fix your tickets on UI changes, write your front-end code, review and test it, and give push your code to a GitHub PR or GitHub wherever you have your like GitHub or code repository setup. And all you have to do is manage it like you'll manage a junior developer.
And how far out do you think it is from being able to actually use it?
That's a great question, right? So the devons of the world have changed what people expect from this thing, and I would say like so. Both me and my co-founder come from a very self-driving cars-based background. In our research, we've worked a lot with self-driving cars, and that's the reason both have Teslas. So he owns a Tesla. So I feel like there are five levels of autonomy in self-driving cars that they define, and I if we define a similar five level spectrum for the software development, the cursors and your codiums of the world have already done level two, if not two and a half, you could say. And Devon wants to level five directly. Like that's what Devon is promising. And I think it'll take time to get there. And we can do level three soon enough, but level four again will also take time. So I think we are a few years, at least a decade from a level 5 solution, I would hope. But a level 4 solution you could expect in a few years' time where it does majority of your job with little bit of hand holding required, and probably it will fail at simpler tasks than you expect, but it'll do a decent enough job in most of them.
Yeah. So like level three is self-driving, but you still got to be there. And then
Yeah,
level
so
five is there's not
so
even.
conditional automation they call it. So if I'm not wrong. So conditional automation I think is okay for like partial automation. I think conditional automation is level three. I'm not sure if I'm messing up the levels, but I think you could assume like conditional automation for entire workflow of development is very much possible with the models getting better by the day, right? The reasoning is getting better. Like your ovens of the GPT ovens is getting better. You have your cloud compute. Like I don't know if you saw that where cloud is able to access and like manage your computers, move your mouse. So great, like this thing, right? I think OpenAI will come up with one as well soon enough. But I'm saying like it opens up a lot of options. Like the single largest problem for like code writing, in my personal opinion, by AI systems is that it is not able to test it. It is able to give you a code, but it is not able to test if this code is correct or not. It just gives you thinking. This is like us writing a quiz, right? We just write hoping that it'll be correct. But if somehow you had a magical notebook where if you wrote it down and every time you wrote a wrong thing, it told you where it was wrong and how it was wrong, and told you how you can correct it, everybody will get 100, right? So that's the hope that the systems will get there where it can automatically detect the mistakes it's making and correct itself. And for that, you need a lot of missing pieces. Like the computer use is a great step in the correct direction where visually the, like for example in our case, which is a front end or UI thing that we are working on, any UI change that you make, if I'm able to literally visually inspect it, see what is happening, and then take a decision whether the change is correct or not, I think that'll be much more robust than just saying I wrote this code, take it. So I think that's where the journey is moving towards in the automation spectrum, and hopefully it'll get better and better with time with these models getting better and better.
Yeah. So for my last question, I wanted to ask if you have one piece of advice for someone who's still in high school or early in college wanting to follow a similar career path as you.
So I would say try everything. Don't be shy of anything. So I can tell you I've worked on healthcare doing bio stuff. I've worked on self-driving cars doing vision stuff. I've worked on like plain natural language. I've worked with speech. Again, you could say everything is bottled into machine learning. Probably true. But I'm saying try everything in a field that you like. Like try software development if you like it. Try quant if you want to do that. Try everything. Give everything a shot because I feel like you should never feel like, damn, I should have given that a shot. Maybe that was my cup of tea. Because that regret is much worse than actually trying and failing and saying, nah, bro, it's not for me. So I think that's much easier. So give everything a shot. Try as much, like as many things as you like. And even if you don't like it, try it. You might end up liking it. So yeah, that's my one liner, if not more than a liner. But yeah, that's my advice.
All right then, thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.